The evolution of drive whose visual identity, the British Sci-Fi Institution, that is Doctor Who has been a staple of popular culture for over 5 decades. But have you ever stopped to think about the show's visual identity? From the iconic TARDIS to the Doctor's trusty sonic screwdriver, the show's aesthetic has undergone a remarkable evolution over the years. Let's start with the very beginning. The first episode of Doctor Who, An Unearthly Child, aired in 1963, and it was a far cry from the show we know today. The TARDIS, for example, was a police box with a wonky door and a rather unremarkable design. The first Doctor, played by William Hartnell, was a gruff, cantankerous old man with a penchant for complaining. But as the show progressed, the production team began to experiment with new ideas. The second Doctor, played by Patrick Troughton, introduced a more whimsical, playful tone to the show, and the TARDIS began to take on a more fantastical appearance. The third Doctor, played by Jon Pertwee, brought a more dashing, adventurous spirit to the role, and the show's visual identity began to take on a more sophisticated, earthbound feel. The 1970s and 1980s saw a significant shift in the show's aesthetic, with the fourth Doctor, played by Tom Baker, introducing a more bohemian, eccentric style. The TARDIS became a more prominent part of the show's visual identity, with its bright blue and white color scheme and wonky door becoming an instantly recognizable symbol of the show. It wasn't until the 1990s, with the return of the show in 2005, that Doctor Who's visual identity truly began to take shape. The ninth Doctor, played by Christopher Eccleston, brought a more modern, edgy feel to the show, with a sleeker, more minimalist design aesthetic. The TARDIS, meanwhile, was revamped to look more like a futuristic, high-tech vessel. The 10th Doctor, played by David Tennant, took the show's visual identity to new heights, with a bold, vibrant color scheme and a more dynamic, kinetic energy. The show's use of CGI and special effects also became more sophisticated, allowing for more complex, elaborate storylines. The 11th Doctor, played by Matt Smith, brought a more quirky, offbeat style to the show, with a bold, graphic design aesthetic and a more emphasis on the show's sense of wonder and curiosity. The 12th Doctor, played by Peter Capaldi, took the show's visual identity in a darker, more moody direction, with a more muted color scheme and a greater emphasis on the show's sense of danger and urgency. And finally, with the 13th Doctor, played by Jodie Whittaker, the show's visual identity has taken on a more inclusive, diverse feel, with a greater emphasis on the show's sense of community and connection. The TARDIS, meanwhile, has been revamped to look more like a futuristic, high-tech vessel, with a sleek, aerodynamic design. Throughout its long history, Doctor Who's visual identity has been shaped by the show's production team, its writers, and its actors. But one thing remains constant: the show's sense of wonder, curiosity, and adventure. Whether it's the TARDIS, the sonic screwdriver, or the Doctor's trusty companions, the show's visual identity is a reflection of its enduring spirit of exploration and discovery.